Trump and Cohen used to be best buddies. I mean, Cohen was Trump's lawyer for decades, and they really were thick as thieves, or so it seemed, until this falling out when Trump's legal woes started to spiral. Madeleine Westerhout is a former White House aide. She worked in the Trump administration. She presented a really, I think, crucial piece of testimony today. So she was talking about the procedure for when Trump was in the White House and how he would have his mail items sent to the homes of his aides, including his longtime bodyguard. And she was saying that the mail was being sent to the aides because the White House process was rather slow. And so in doing so, Trump would receive items sooner than he would if they were sent directly to the White House. And among these items were those hush money payment checks made to Stormy Daniels. So, and on top of that, Westerhout was saying that Trump was a multitasker and he was always busy and, doing multiple things at once. And he wouldn't always thoroughly read what he was signing and what documents he was signing, what checks were in front of him. But she also said that he was very adamant about putting his signature on these items. So he was, according to her, just signing away and not always looking very carefully through what was in front of him.
One of the sort of, I suppose, more emotional moments actually of the day was her crying. She cried on the stand about being fired because of sort of fond memories of working with the then president. And it struck me actually, Caitlin, she's not the first person to kind of recall quite happy times working with Trump. A former assistant had kind of a similar reflection, maybe a week or 10 days ago.
I think it's really interesting, and trials are obviously such an emotional ride, right? Any trial is going to be very highly emotional, very complex, and this trial is certainly no exception. We've seen that with Stormy Daniels, obviously her testimony kind of being the highlight of the week. We've seen it from Michael Cohen, who has yet to take the stand, who has been very vocal on social media, especially on TikTok, with his hot takes of the trial, and even the general public. I mean, I think this trial in particular is very heightened. A lot of people have a lot of really strong opinions and emotions about what's going on here. And obviously the people taking the stand are, they have such a personal investment in the work that they did for Trump, the role that they may or may not have played in getting to this point. So it really is, it's quite complex.
In terms of what we're kind of learning as well, I suppose there's so many people kind of passing through the stand, giving their evidence, etc. Are we building a picture of anything, Caitlin? What can we say definitively now that we may have not known before the trial started?
It's a really interesting question. I mean, I think, everything we saw this week, especially from Stormy Daniels, really is kind of setting the stage for Michael Cohen to take the stand. His testimony is really the crucial piece of this trial. And, a lot of people, a lot of legal experts and commentators have been saying that there's kind of this missing puzzle piece to the story that only Michael Cohen can fill. And it's really a question now of whether or not he is going to, bridge the gap and kind of give the jury the last 10% that they're missing to piece this whole thing together. So I think we're really leading up to, the last couple witnesses. They're saying that there are maybe one or two other witnesses, Cohen included, and that the jury might rest by next week. So really the lead up is to next week and when Michael Cohen does take the stand. Aside from that, I mean, Stormy Daniels' testimony, she took the stand for over 6 hours across a 2-day period. We learned a lot from what she had to say. She detailed her alleged encounter with the former president explicitly. She brought a lot of details to the table, which of course led to a lot of questions as well. One of Trump's lawyers on the case is Susan Nichols, and she is the only woman working with him on this case. And she worked, part of what she was doing in cross-examining and questioning Stormy Daniels was kind of undermining her credibility because Daniels has, Nichols' quote was that Daniels has changed her story several times over the years. And I think part of that stems from in early 2018 when Stormy Daniels put out a statement denying the affair, denying her relationship with Trump. And during her testimony, she did say that that was a result of Michael Cohen, that Cohen implored her and pressured her to put out that statement. So again, a lot of moving puzzle pieces here, a lot of things at play. And I really do think that the trial has been set up to this point, leading to Michael Cohen's testimony, which is going to be far and away the biggest factor here.
And we understand he's going to begin testifying as early as Monday, perhaps, as well. And I think it's
Correct.
worth remembering on that, Caitlin, what Donald Trump is, what they are investigating here, what is on trial. Because Michael Cohen, often referred to as a fixer, he's one of these people, often actually portrayed in TV shows. It's quite a helpful thing to bear in mind. And he was helping the former president suppress politically damaging stories in the lead up to the 2016 presidential election. And so that's kind of where Stormy Daniels fits in. But just remind us what we're kind of listening out for from Michael Cohen by way of what's on trial.
Absolutely. So to clarify, former President Trump has pleaded not guilty to 34 counts of falsifying business records, and he is accused of undermining the integrity of the 2016 presidential election and having an unlawful plan to suppress negative information surrounding him and his campaign. On Cohen's side, he pleaded guilty in 2018 to lying under oath to Congress during his testimony in 2017, which is a crucial piece of his upcoming testimony because, again, it could question his credibility as a witness in the case. And again, that can really make or break this case for Donald Trump. And I think the other big thing here, too, is that Trump and Cohen used to be best buddies. I mean, Cohen was Trump's lawyer for decades, and they really were thick as thieves, or so it seemed, until this falling out when Trump's legal woes started to spiral. And obviously, Michael Cohen has already stood trial and pleaded guilty and served some time in prison for lying previously. So a lot of moving parts and different components here. But again, their relationship, I think, is really going to take center stage next week, and kind of how they were and where they are now that they've had this massive, very public falling out.